Hey guys, Tay here. Just wanted to pop in and remind you that the top tier of our Patreon, the Master Welders, certified Master Welders, get something called Master Welder Monday, which every Monday I sit down and I respond to all their questions, comments, concerns, everything they send us from our top tier Patreon. They get a dedicated video every week, and some of them get kind of weird and kind of funny. Here is a highlight reel of all the ones we've done so far. And if you have it in you and that kind of thing sounds interesting to you, check it out. We'd love to have you on our certified Master Welder tier of our Patreon. Thank you guys.
All right, first question comes from Dave. Dave would like to see some more how we choose MIG versus TIG other than speed, or know what the kind of deciding factor is.
Yeah, choice between MIG and TIG usually depends on level of finish, type of material being welded, general need for precision in the project, and speed, if I hadn't said that already. Below a certain thickness, I tend to like TIG. Anything below 14 gauge, I tend to go to TIG because it's easier to control heat. It's much more precise. If I'm doing something where I don't want to grind a whole lot afterwards, I'll do TIG, because you can control how much metal you put into the weld. Obviously with stainless, you don't really have a choice. I'd go TIG every time. With aluminum, now that we have this spool gun in the shop, at least on loan for a little while, aluminum I could go either way now, but it's sort of the same rules, it's sort of the same rules as steel, which is below a certain thickness, I will always go TIG, or like if I'm doing a turbo system, which needs to be pressure rated and aesthetically pleasing, I will go TIG that way every time. If I'm building something that's just structural out of aluminum over, 14 gauge and up, I'll definitely now be reaching for that Miller spool gun because it's pretty sweet and it's a lot faster. And aesthetically, it's actually really good looking too. It looks like a really nice MIG weld. So obviously, if you can't tell, the answer is pretty nuanced. It really, at the end of the day, comes down to preference. I know a lot of shops, you hear all this stuff like, oh, we're a TIG only shop, That's nice. A TIG only shop is probably a shop that's doing like race car chassis every day, or, automotive stuff is usually all TIG. Aerospace is gonna be all TIG, or now laser welding. Aesthetics and after cleaning up afterwards, pressure vessels, there's a lot of specialty stuff that's better for TIG. And then MIG, like, handrails, I'll reach for a MIG gun every time, signposts, rails, like I said, most steel furniture, most of the time that's MIG welded. Overall, if you wanted a simple answer, steel is going to be MIG welded most of the time. Stainless and aluminum, I traditionally reach for a TIG.
What led us in the fabrication business into the film business? How we went from having a fabrication shop to a fabrication shop and YouTube channel.
Sure. Well, I guess to accurately answer that, I'd have to talk about Black Dog. I grew up in a family business that was an architectural salvage company called Black Dog Salvage. And a lot of what we did with the salvage materials would be to build custom furniture. So we built custom tables and light fixtures and chairs and benches and any architectural element you could think of, both wood and metal. And Dad started that business in 1999. And 12 years later, in 2013, we got picked up for a national television show called Salvage Dogs. And that show ran for 8 years. We filmed 11 seasons and 143 episodes. And in that time, I've been obsessed with cameras since I was a kid. I remember my mom and dad had a Sony Hi8, magnetic tape, digital, quote unquote, digital camcorder that I would take to my friend's house, and we would make I guess at the time Jackass was real big, so we would make Jackass. Hey Jimmy, ride your bike off the ramp into the bush, and film that, and then find a way to edit that and cut it together, and then I got digital stuff when it came out and started messing with video editing. So I was always into that. And then when I was in the TV show and around camera equipment all the time, I ended up being able to ask. I would just always ask the camera guys, the producers, the sound guys, anyone that was willing to talk to me about gear and shooting and all that. Ended up doing a lot of photography and videography for Black Dog the last 5 years I was there. And then when I started my own shop and the show was over, we ended up doing our own YouTube channel. We started our YouTube channel in 2018, and here's the man himself, actually. Part of the reason I'm telling the Black Dog story. Part of the reason someone asked how we
started in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. You have impeccable timing. Anytime we're talking about Black Dog, you're always come by.
Well, you know, it's a gift or curse. I'm not quite sure which one it is. Hey, everybody. Mike Whiteside here at Mobile.
Our patron Brian
Hey, Brian.
correctly assumes that we like to knock a few beers back every now and then,
Oh, sure.
and wants to know if there's any breweries near the new shop and what our go-to brand is when we're done hanging or done for the day and just hanging out.
What's your chosen cold snack? You don't drink a whole lot anymore.
I don't drink anymore, so I'm a teetotaler. Bullshit. No,
Teetotal.
teetotaler means you don't drink anything.
Oh, wow.
I'm not. That's not me. You know what I mean? I'll have a social beer now and again.
Sure.
What do I like? I like a Modelo.
You look good, man. You
I
trim.
know. That's part.
Imagine what happens.
No beer.
Stop drinking
Yeah,
beer,
that's
man.
right. It just falls off.
Your man boobs
It's
go
all-
away.
It's all about. I still got some B cups.
Trainers.
Yeah. But I like a light pilsner when I partake.
Cold. Ice cold.
Very cold.
Yeah.
Nothing worse than a warm Mexican beer.
No, the Germans like it warm sometimes too.
So
No
the
thanks.
English. It's got to be ice cold or ish.
Europeans are out of. It was actually kind of tradition when at Salvage Dogs when we.
Tradition. It was a friggin' habit.
Yeah.
We finished the day of shooting and.
The production company had them
And
ready for
everybody
us.
knew your brand too.
Yeah.
They just one would show up in
You
front
were a
of you.
Modelo guy.
Yeah.
Robert was a Miller guy.
Yeah.
Ted was Bud Light, and I had IPAs.
See whatever was there.
Grayson was a Stella. Actually, yeah, we each had our own. God, makes it sound so
Pretty
pretentious.
good. Miss those days when I used to drink and people used to hand me beers
Yeah.
for free. Well, nothing's for free.
It's a lot easier to drink when someone's handing you beers for free. It's hard not to. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like here
It's
you
a-
go.
It's a social thing.
All right.
Alan says, if you had to pick one food and only one food that you would have to eat for every meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
General Tso's chicken and lo mein. Easy.
Right off the bat.
Easy. It's my prison meal. It's my cheat meal. I've had 3 beers and I forgot to plan dinner meal. Like, it is go-to. General Tso's chicken from locally in Roanoke. It's either going to be Walk and Roll Kitchen or China Tastes. So good. It's going to kill me one day, but it's so good.
Eric says, I have a great Master Welder Monday question. I know you can etch with a plasma CNC like we have. I actually did it with too low amperage and too high cut speed. Is there a proper way to do that where you do etching with the plasma?
Well, that's an interesting question because what you were talking about was technically a mistake, getting the too low amperage and too high cutting speed. In plasma world, that would be called gouging. That's actually done on purpose with a different tip, usually using a plasma cutter. And a gouging tip is meant to sort of carve out material. In most cases, it's meant to carve out a weld in something you're trying to take apart or repair, get rid of an old weld so you can remove, separate some weldments, and then, it makes your cleanup a lot easier, and it's a lot easier to gouge material out than use a grinding wheel or something else. But that's an interesting thought, and I've never tried it. Gouging is much more violent than cutting because the sparks and the slag don't have anywhere to go. It's all going to splash back up towards your machine and towards you, and it's going to be a very chaotic operation. But I don't see why you couldn't do it. And theoretically speaking, yeah, you could do some pretty intricate designs if you're just like essentially carving into the metal instead of cutting all the way through. I've never done it. personally, but logically speaking, you should be able to do it, and you could probably achieve some pretty cool art with it. So happy hunting. Let us know if you figure anything out that's cool. Maybe we'll do a video where we attempt to do the Mona Lisa with gouging instead of a Sharpie.
Could you draw with just a handheld plasma cutter even? Yeah. Or gouge?
Have you done one of these before?
No, this is my first one.
Welcome to Master Welder Monday.
I'm kind of nervous.
Are you?
Yeah, 'cause I can't weld.
Yeah.
All right. So Brian writes in, and Brian has a son who would like to get a 3D printer for his birthday. He's turning 14, or is on the is it the 14th?
You wrote this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is Brian's question. I don't know if he's turning 14 or it is on the 14th. Either way, happy birthday.
Nice.
And Brian wants to know if we can point him in the right direction about information, consumable costs, programs, everything that we know so far about doing 3D printing ourselves.
3D printing.
Which is why we brought Spike in today.
Hello. You want to answer this one?
Yes. Yeah.
The Creality 3D printers have been amazing. We have the K1 out there, which is fully enclosed, but we also gave one away in July. That was very much like their entry level. Out of the box, it took 15 minutes to set up.
It was the Ender 3S, I believe.
So, it sounds about right.
Yeah.
But it was very easy to unbox, put together, and have it running within 15, 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That would be a great entry for anybody.
Yeah. Bamboo Labs is another really good company. All these machines now are getting pretty much automatic.
Yeah.
Like no bed leveling or weirdness.
The only problem with Bamboo as an entry level is it's going to be a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, they're a bit more premium, and Creality's like hustling to take them down. So competition's good.
And their entry level, which used to be, you had to do a bunch of programming and all that. This one, out of the box, good to go. As far as programs, they have the slicer is free.
Yeah.
And then you can find lots of free 3D modeling programs. SketchUp is the big one. Tinkercad is another one, and that's kind of fun because it's also like you're building blocks like in Minecraft. Because have you ever played with Tinkercad? You can make it so it'll tell you how many Legos it takes to build your design.
Oh, cool.
Which is a fun little plugin anyway.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Tinkercad and SketchUp would be my first two recommendations for free software. And then you can always go bigger.
Yeah, you can spend as much money as a house on CAD software.
Yeah. Blender is also free.
Blender is free.
And you can do 3D modeling in there. That's a little bit more advanced.
Very advanced, yeah.
That's the next step after you start your first machine.
There you go. Oh, and I guess every company will also sell you filament and stuff like that. Consumables, nozzles, all that stuff.
It's like last week Alan asked Tay, who said General House chicken. But he wanted to know if you could pick one food, and only one food that you could eat for every meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
One type of food for the rest of your life.
It would either be potatoes and eggs or chicken pot pie.
Oh, yeah. Is that your box of pot pies in the freezer?
No, it's Wyatt's. Because as an adult, I now use the oven only for chicken pot pie.
Yeah.
Because I went through college of eating a billion chicken pot pies, all microwaved, and in the oven is just so much better. So
as long as you have 45 minutes to wait.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. Every bite.
Be ready eventually. What is potatoes and eggs? Just like
breakfast food.
Okay, so
like just hash browns and eggs. I love.
As long as it's yellow, he's a big fan.
Mac and
all
cheese.
the beige foods.
It's very monochromatic.
Yeah, mac and cheese.
Yeah,
steak with a lot of turmeric sauce on it.
Yeah, bananas,
gravy.
It would be a Spike move to like mix mac and cheese and bananas or something like that.
How dare you?
You like very dissimilar.
What are we talking about?
You ate grapes and cherry tomatoes in the same bowl the other day.
First off, that was months ago.
Yeah. Well,
and second off, because I didn't want to bring 2 containers. And I figured out that it triggered Aaron a lot, so I'm going to keep doing that.
That's true.
This is an intervention about your eating habits too.
No, honestly, if we have if we need to schedule one, you're not up first. Yeah.
Listen, I might not be the most normal person, but I eat just fine. I do get this
Okay, moving on.
Look what you did, Will. Happy birthday.
Eric wants to know, how do you prep aluminum and steel to weld, powder coat, and then paint? He's really looking for some time efficiency pointers.
He goes, also, why are bow rounds so damn delicious?
I know, this is going to be your follow-up, Spike.
That's fair. How do you prep aluminum and steel to weld, powder coat, and paint? Well, those are 3 different operations. So to prep to weld, you just want to clean it, use a flap disc or a wire wheel or a little bit of sand. You want to get all the paint, dirt, oil off. You don't really have to get, with modern welders, you don't really have to get the oxide layer off of aluminum. You just want to make sure it's clean. That's what the AC wave current is for, is to break the oxide layer out. You could wire brush on aluminum is about as far as you would need to go. With steel, you want to make sure that you get all the paint off. You can leave the mill scale though. You can weld straight through mill scale. Although if you're TIG welding, you kind of want to get the mill scale off because the mill scale is a lot harder than the base metal. So you're going to take a lot more heat to melt through the mill scale, and then it's going to undercut once you're burning into the base metal. So it's going to lead to a really inconsistent welding experience. But if you're MIG welding, MIG welders don't care at all. Powder coat, our powder coater just sandblasts everything. So it gets sandblasted, which removes everything, cleans it perfectly, and leaves a nice textured base for the powder to stick to. If you're trying to save a buck and you have a small sandblaster, you can sandblast it yourself, I'm sure, and just give it to your powder coater that way. Paint, kind of the same thing. You don't have to sandblast before paint. If I'm painting a metal piece, I usually just try to hit it with like an orbital sander. Just scuff it. If there's long flat surfaces, I'll use a power sander, but if there's interior corners or the inside of a circle, usually just have to grab a Scotch-Brite and some sandpaper by hand. Again, you don't have to sand through the mill scale, but you definitely want to get dirt, oil, all that stuff off. And then acetone. If you're painting it yourself, you need to give everything a wipe down with acetone. Wipe down until you pull the rag off and there's no dirt on the rag. It might take 5-6 wipe downs, but technically speaking, in a perfect world, that's what you want to shoot for.
Now, is it important to use acetone to get oils off for welding?
Yeah, aluminum for sure. Aluminum welding is very sensitive. When you're welding aluminum, especially TIG welding aluminum, you want to wipe down your filler rods with acetone. You want to wipe down your base metal with acetone. You want to clean, make sure your tungstens, you don't need to wipe the tungsten down with acetone, but you want to make sure if you've been using the tungsten for other things, you want to set it on the edge of an anvil and break the tip of the tungsten off and then resharpen it so you get fresh virgin tungsten. It doesn't have any deposits in it from any other metals.
So
yeah, aluminum's very sensitive.
For the lay, then like me and Spike here, when do you powder coat and when do you paint? And what's the difference when you powder coat something in terms of like longevity and durability, all that stuff, versus painting?
Powder coat.
The question actually.
Well, you go ahead.
No, you got it.
Powder coating is like a candy shell. So you're coating something in a layer of plastic, essentially. The powder that we speak of is literally pigmented powdered plastic, which gets electrostatically shot onto your metal piece, meaning the piece is negatively charged, the powder's gun is positively charged, and it just sticks to the part, and then you get everything coated on even, and then you bake it on in an oven. So it's harder, it's more durable, and it should be more flexible. But these days you have a million types of powders, a million types of paint. I mean, paint, I've seen paint that you can bend metal and bend it back and the paint doesn't chip. It's all about, is it a lacquer? Is it an epoxy? Is it acrylic? Is it latex? There's all sorts of different types of paint. If you're painting metal, we use a DTM, direct to metal product called ALK 200, which is from a local paint supplier, but I think it's Performance Coatings, I think is the umbrella company for that. That one doesn't need primer. You just shoot it directly and it's a single stage. So if you're painting metal, like painting a car, usually you'll have either a base coat, clear coat, or you'll have a single stage, which is just one shot, base clear, all in one. So you can kind of see how you can go down the rabbit hole as deep as you want. But the key difference when it comes to painting or powder coating the stuff we build and install is that if you powder coat something and you install it and it gets damaged or scratched or chipped somehow, it's a little tougher to touch that up because there's an actual layer of plastic. And if that chip is gone and you go to, even if you get a color match color like we have for some of our railings, that chip is still gone. That the thickness of the powder that's now missing will be seen when you touch it up. Versus paint, it's a bit easier to say if you damaged a railing that was painted, you can just sand it down and just build that up more gradually. You should probably sand in both cases, but paint, as long as the powder coat doesn't get damaged, it will last longer. But if it's intended to look nice for 50, 100 years, you probably want to paint it so that you can service it every 5 years or so. You can paint it again and you can layer the paint because you can't re-powder coat something in the field. It has to come off and go back, probably get blasted again. Powder's a one shot go, and if you screw it up, it's screwed up. Paint can be touched up, layered, recoated.
Now what if you look at like durability, powder coating is more durable. So we usually powder coat like railings.
Yeah.
Right? But because they're more durable, but they're harder to touch up. So like, where's that balance of choosing? Because for us, if we're doing like a sign that's going to go on the side of your house, we'll paint that. Yeah. But if we're doing a railing, we're going to want to powder coat it because of durability.
Well, and it's cheaper. It's for everyone, for the customer and for us. Like powder coating something can be done. It's quicker and it's cheaper, and in the grand scheme of things, it is a very durable coating. To paint something like super, super high quality, like you would a car, it would cost 2 or 3 times more. And we'd have to pass that cost on to the customer.
Right.
And I used to paint stuff in the shop, but we don't have a paint booth, and I just hate doing it. Yeah. I'd rather focus on what I'm good at and outsource to someone like Lucas over at Powder Coating Creations. Yeah, he's great. He's good. You write all that down?
Just replay the video.
Yeah. And since we're shouting you guys out, a big shout out to all you certified master. I'm just gonna say it in my own words.
That's good.
Eric also asked, why are bow rounds so damn delicious?
Because potatoes. Like what? Potatoes are, besides cheese, the most versatile food. Potatoes can go with everything.
Well, anyway, thank you guys so much. We're going to give the shout outs to all of our certified master welders. We've got Amanda, John, of course, king of the fan base.
King of the fan base.
John, king of the fan base. Craig, shout out Craig. Brian and Eric, kings of the comments and questions, since we're giving out titles.
Every week so far, they've been on the Master Welder questions.
We got Alan, we got Martin, we got Frank and Katie, we got Andrew, James, Steve, Mark, Dan. We got Michael, aka Dirty Tungsten. What's up, dog?
What up, DT?
Cindy, we got the Angry Cripple.
What up, AC?
And we got Johnny and Jim.
What up, Jay?
Thank you guys so much for being members of our Certified Master Welder tier. We certainly appreciate you, and this is fun to do. So keep sending us questions, comments, concerns, especially the concern. We'll send him all the concerns.
Yeah, and if you have any more food-related questions that you'd like me to answer, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, Certified Master Chef, bro.
I'll
eater.
Yeah,
Certified Master Eater.
I can make like 4 things really well.
Yeah. Again, shout out to Lou for the analog laptops. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next week. Stay tuned for all the content coming on YouTube, and thank you very much. Bye.